Hey everyone, welcome back for another Tri-County adventure. Today we're at the Dr. Thomas Walker State Historic Site. Now this site here is actually the first cabin in Kentucky. Um, it's on Highway 459 in Barbourville, Kentucky. Just follow the signs. I'm going to look around here a little bit. I'm going to have the park ranger do an interview with us to tell us some history of the place. So stick around with us. All right, guys, we're at the replica, the first house cabin in Kentucky. We want to kind of show you around here a little bit. This is the park ranger.
Hello there, guys. My name's Keith. I am the park manager here at Dr. Thomas Walker State Historic Site. And our whole goal in life is for you guys to get to come out and experience this very first house in Kentucky. This was built by Dr. Thomas Walker and his 5 associates in April of 1750, making this, as of today, 276 years old, which I think is pretty awesome. We're coming up on that anniversary here soon. But people often say, well, why do we care about that? Why do we care about the first structure? Why do we care about any of the Europeans coming into Kentucky or Walker? And I think it's so interesting to see, well, as Frederick Jackson Turner put it, the procession of civilization following through the arteries carved by geology. And Walker, well, he was that first European to come through and begin mapping. So when we look at the path that, say, a very notable person like a Daniel Boone might have taken, well, we find out that that's almost the same path. And that reason is, well, Boone had one of Walker's maps. So Boone, he was actually in the French and Indian War alongside a guy named George Washington. And that's where he gained a lot of his notoriety. And then Washington was related by marriage to Dr. Thomas. So we think that's how that map got changed hands. But Walker was a Virginian. He was born to British parents, but he was from Albemarle County in Virginia, and he was a great physician. That's where he got the name Dr. Thomas Walker. He went to the William and Mary's College, and they said he was to be one of the best physicians in all of Virginia. However, he really loved exploring. He loved to be outside, and one of the things that he did, well, he started taking on these great land grant opportunities. And he and his business partner, Peter Jefferson, took upon one for their company, the Loyal Land Company, to actually go and explore Kentucky for the British. Well, late 1749, they started this project getting going, and then by 1750, they take off. They come down and they cross over into where is present-day Long Island on the Holston River. They come up, cross Wallen Ridge, follow down the Cumberland Mountains and through the Cumberland Gap, where Walker began naming things like Gap Cave, the Cumberland Mountains, the Cumberland River. And then, well, they ended up having a little turmoil, and they ended up stopping here in Barbourville. This was not the first campsite in Kentucky. That was in Pineville, but this was the first place where they really thought, this is it. And they began building, well, this structure that we see here today. This was part of the requirements for what they called corn rights or coin rights. So when you got a land grant, you had to do certain things to say that you claimed the property. And this was a huge land grant. And so for them, they needed to build a permanent structure, check. They learned from the Chickamauga Cherokee that anywhere that the river cane would grow, that they could actually plant corn. So we believe they plowed off a lot of this lower section that would have all been river cane. And once they got done with that, they had to plant some fruit trees. So they planted some peach pits, and they did a lot of exploring while they were here. Walker and Colby Chew and Ambrose Powell actually made up a river birch bark canoe, and they explored up and down the Cumberland River. Walker found the first instance of coal here in Kentucky. And of course, when they returned back, the cabin was mostly already built by the other 3 associates, Hughes, Lawless, and Tomlinson, and they helped finish up. They smoked a few more meats, and they got ready to go on and continue their exploration. But for me, I think that Walker's greatest contribution is what he did sort of in the background. He started, in a lot of ways, that westward expansion. He started the way that we traveled into Kentucky and what was the Wild West at the time. He was also really influential in a lot of politics at that time. He was a very early revolutionary, and he was also the sort of adoptive father of our 3rd president, Thomas Jefferson. Peter Jefferson, that I mentioned earlier, was the father of Thomas Jefferson, and, well, he unfortunately passed when a young TJ was only about 14. TJ being best friends with Walker's son, Jack, well, they just sort of thought this was a natural thing. He just sort of adopted him, and he stayed by his side, was one of his advisors while he was president. And I actually was reading an article last year where Jefferson had been sending letters to Walker to have him proofread them. And I thought that was the coolest thing. the author of the Declaration of Independence, one of the most important pieces of American literature, is asking for writing tips from Walker. So I think that's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
So today, I think what we can do is we can start to tell that American story, that America 250 story that we're all really pushing for this year. We can tell the story of Kentucky, and you can actually come out here to Dr. Thomas Walker State Historic Site and visit this first cabin. This reconstruction is really, really close to the original, and this site we know was the correct one because of a wonderful gentleman by the name of George Owens. George Owens found part of the old chimney. He found some of the remnants of the cabin and the stones. And, well, just on the other side of the cabin here, we find that they erected a monument on the back of a Civil War headstone. You'll find that traditional crest on the backside, but this is where he erected the monument so that we would know that this is, in fact, in 1922, where Mr. George Owens found this cabin. And here at the park today, we have a lot more than just the cabin to see. We are a very popular venue for, well, lots of kids. Kids love to come out and explore and play on the playground or run amok in the woods, but also we get to do many different things. Like last week, we had an Easter egg hunt. We offer canoe and kayak trips. We have picnic shelters that people do many of their family reunions at. We offer archery once a month. We do a lot of different things. So you should come out and spend some time here, learn about your Kentucky history, and, well, just have a good evening.
All right, man. I sure do appreciate the interview and the history of Dr. Thomas Walker.
Thank you, sir.
So you can tell everybody where you're located at.
Yep.
In case you're out of state.
We are at 4929 Kentucky 459 in Barbourville, Kentucky. Good stuff.
All right. Thank you a lot.
Absolutely.